So just from my side, a little overview about the American Chamber of Commerce, who actually gives us this platform for our activities of the committee. So the American Chamber of Commerce, AMCHAM in short, is like, I think, 27 years now in Luxembourg. And it's the Luxembourg affiliate of the American Chamber of Commerce from Washington, DC. In Luxembourg, actually, what is very interesting to know is that it's the most international business chamber here, with around, I think, 30% of US members, 20% still of Luxembourgish companies, and then around 50% all over the world international companies here. And the main points or the main goals for the AMCHAM is, of course, to provide a networking platform in English, but also to provide information about how Luxembourg works, especially also in terms of business, for companies who want to establish business or build out their business here in the Luxembourg ecosystem, to help the companies with their struggles, problem solving, and so on. And a very interesting and important point, I think, is also that there's a lot of engagement with the government to support the members of the AMCHAM, and to make sure that Luxembourg stays a good place for expats to do business. And in the framework of the AMCHAM, of course, we had the possibility to set up a committee, I think 2 years ago, specialized on resourcing, training, and development. And so came that we found a pool of talented, very knowledgeable, and very passionate people around this topic, learning and development here in Luxembourg. Now let's go more into the topic. So we already had a first webinar on Wednesday, which Mina was hosting, which is part of one of our series, the Learning Fest 2023, discussing on how to deal with constant changes and ambiguity in our actual environment. So this was a first webinar that we launched. And then today there will be Peter and Antje hosting this webinar on the skills of the future needed in learning and development. And I think what is interesting, or at least from my side, what I see is that, yeah, this is a challenge, of course, externally for the companies, to train the staff, to get them adapted to this environment, but also internally when we talk about skills of the learning and development professionals that are also changing and that have to adapt constantly in this very fast evolving and technological environment, but also let's say the demands of the businesses are constantly evolving. And then I would leave the floor to Peter and Antje to first maybe introduce themselves and then launch the discussion on the topic.
Okay, thank you, Claude, for your participation and for your words about the necessity and also the opportunity of having or trying to build a community of practice and sharing ideas, because in our domain, you see, we all know, becomes more complex every day and every year after year, especially after pandemics. And if you don't share and if you don't learn also with other professionals, like-minded professionals, you don't have the time to read enough or to study enough or to practice enough. I don't know about you, I'm very eager, and me and Antje, to find about your situation, your thoughts on this. You can use the chat, you can use the reactions, and also we have some quizzes if you prefer like this, or also in some breakout rooms at some point, if you can speak one with another, in order to discuss some topics they will propose here. We have also a visual just to keep something colorful in front of our eyes, but it's not something fixed and rigid. I like colors personally, and you'll see we have a lot of colors here. Antje, I will let you present yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Antje. I'm based in Luxembourg, obviously. I'm pretty excited by all the stuff that's happening in L&D. I mean, I was in an L&D role in fact, till 2014, a few years. And then I took a break and did other things like organization development and so on. And I somehow got distracted and didn't really follow what was happening. And then in 2020, I came back into L&D and it totally blew my mind. You know, the self-determined learning and user-generated content and everywhere, like content libraries till the eyes couldn't, I mean, like tons of content suddenly. All these things had changed in the meantime, and also the role of L&D had been changed. And my new colleagues, I mean, that was our Bible here, agile learning in German. Anyway, and we basically tried out a lot of the things that were mentioned in this book. And this is why I'm so excited about this topic. And obviously not an expert on everything and anything.
Do they work? The things in your book, do they work? They function?
Well, you need to try it out. You always need to experiment with the stuff, right?
Yes,
and
yes,
I think, sorry, I'm just already talking a lot, but what I'm particularly interested in is what we can learn about what people really need now. We are confronting people, our employees, with a situation where they need to learn a lot and continuously. What really helps them deal with that and do it in a way that's not making it terrible, but making it feasible and even fun? How can we create experiences that make that happen? And how can we give them the competencies for themselves to help them deal with it? That's for me.
Great questions and great challenges that we all face one way or another. Thank you, Antje. Just a little about me, Petre Bica. I'm based also in Luxembourg. I'm a digital learning consultant, but I did a lot of things from the L&D cycle. I work almost everywhere, and also in a lot of industries. I have the same challenges and questions like Antje, but also with the need, because it depends on what you are working and what kind of challenges you receive from your clients. I'm an external consultant and I have a lot of clients. And I have another dimension also to these questions, the need for scaling. You have to make the learning personal and to be fun and to be impactful and to serve people in the best way you can deliver it, and also to decrease the time to competency, because nobody has an eternity to develop a skill, but you need also to scale it, because as a big organization, I worked at some point with an organization, just the middle management level, it was almost 100,000 people. And I was shocked because, of course, it was in Asia, but yeah. The need for scaling, every kind of solution, if it is great, is good, wow, it's wonderful, but we need to scale it because we work with a lot of people and we can't hire, I don't know, 100,000 coaches or mentors or trainers, or it's not feasible. And yeah, this is also my angle here. You see the hashtags, scaling learning, and also the idea of adaptive learning in the systemic level. This is what I do every day in different parts of my activity. Okay, and now the question about, of course, everything here now, from now on, it is about you. It's about us all in L&D in Luxembourg, or also transfrontalier. Why foreseeing the future L&D skills is important? Why to bother? Because we are quite busy this day with present matters, no? Why to deal with the future today? What do you think? And you, Antje, why do you think it's important?
I mean, I just want to go back to how we actually had the idea for this webinar. You remember you posted like an infographic in the LinkedIn group. And what struck me, there was this statistics that 20% of L&D people feel that they are working enough on their skills. So 80% have the impression that they are behind with their own skill development. And that sounds really plausible, but that sounds also like the topic needs attention. Yeah. The crazy thing is there's just so many potential things that we could work on, and like, where do you even start?
There was there was also one statistics I think we shared also on our seminar earlier this week. It's a LinkedIn research that shows that in the next even 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, that the skills for doing exactly the same role that you do today will change by 40%. Even if you don't do anything and just stay in your chair, you'll have to adapt by 40% your skill set. So, and we're trying to understand what is that change and where it's going towards.
Yeah, this is quite an insight, because even if the title is the same for your role, and yeah, exactly, you keep the chair, but the desk will change. Yeah. Something will change, yeah, for sure. And it helps to know exactly what change there and how to address the change in terms of developing your own skill. And as we already know, I'm focusing more in the answer for this question also on the time required to develop a new skill, because usually when you really need a skill, it's too late if you start there at that particular moment to develop it, because it takes time to learn. It takes to learn something that's worth learning, you know. It's like, yeah, and you have to start earlier, and you have to have a little bit of vision. Overwhelming, I don't know about you, but for me also it's overwhelming with all these technological changes, but also the methodological changes that Antje said with, yeah, coming back to L&D domain, with all this learning, just in terms of methodology, not technology, which is also another thing with everything coming up upon us, you know, platforms and AI and stuff. Did you already play, by the way, with AI and stuff like this, apps, toys? Do you play in your L&D activity with tech? It's just a question. It's not our main focus here, but.
Miriam says yes.
Oh, good for you, Miriam. Yes, Sharul, if my pronunciation is good. Yeah, sometimes it's relaxing, sometimes it's annoying to address the technological part if you don't consider yourself a technical person. No, it is one of the results of our studies back in the days. Okay, let's see a little bit about you. Are you comfortable with splitting in for a few minutes, 4 minutes in groups and to discuss one with another? Different things, but also under the umbrella of this question: what is the last skill you acquired, in general, or L&D skill, or doesn't matter? Doesn't have to be quite recent, I don't know, this month, or maybe you had a lot of work, but last year or 20 years ago is too much, but you know. Are you comfortable with this? Should we split in teams? Okay, let's see. How was it? You discover a lot of skills. Do you care to share with us in the chat or verbally? Nobody will hear us. We are between us. It's safe. It's in our community.
I think I can share a few of the findings, but please feel free to also, add to that. I think what we found out that it's also difficult to find when you started in implementing or like learning about a skill, because it just accumulates over time. So, but it seems like we have like some decisions or focus areas that we decided that we continuously collect data points or do things that go towards that, but it's hard to say when you started learning it or if maybe you've already learned it. But one of the skill sets that there were a lot of L&D related skill sets we've heard, like instructional design or like in L&D general, and also now AI from the engineering we've heard, right? Yeah, and we talked about different ways of doing that, which is the social learning or, leveraging other tools like more classical ones, e-learning and so on. So everybody has a different preference on that one as well, I guess. Yeah, and it's more difficult to apply it to make it like a skill, while I think the gathering and learning part is easily defined.
And Louise and I were in a room together, and we went a little bit off-piste, and we discussed what skills are the easiest and the hardest to pass on, and the relative value of those skills when it comes to real life HR decisions.
And what kind of skills? Can you give us an example of one of the most recent skills that you struggle with or acquired easily? Doesn't matter.
It's well, for me, the difficulty is passing on skills. Okay. So I'm extremely skilled. I've got in hard skills, and passing them on can be a challenge. And then Eloise, I think if you let me speak for you, if you agree, was very intent on the importance of soft skills when it comes to career progression.
Yeah.
So for instance,
okay.
you know, me teaching people basic internet things, you know, application shortcuts, efficiency models, things like that. It's very hard. Yeah. For me, it's just inbred. But when I try and pass on the information in, you know, like trying to make other people more efficient, or I'm not sure why you're doing it this way when this tool exists, can be different because people are used to doing things the way that they like to do it.
Mm-hmm. Then it's not more about the process of learning or also transferring expertise and skills to other people, but going back to the old habits and also the resistance of old habits.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I don't know if you noticed, but in what Mina said, I thought I saw something and I felt something that it's quite a struggle for me. These days, in comparison with, I don't know, 20 or 15 years ago, because I'm very young, it was now it's not so obvious when you start and when you finish. It's not like a project activity. It's more like a continuous activity. It's not so obvious when you start and when you finish to gather a new skill or a set of expertise, or I don't know, a limited body of knowledge for some activity. It's not so obvious anymore. It's more like a diluate is something. It's not a steak anymore. It's more like a soup. Because I'm learning all the time. I don't know if you have the same problem. I don't know if you experience the same thing, but it's a nice idea, Mina. With maybe I will propose to myself, you inspire me. Maybe I'll go back to define my learning activity as a project with a starting point and an ending point. Doesn't matter if it's a perfect ending, but it should end at some point to raise some conclusions. No.
Could do that.
Good or not, or if I can do this. I don't know.
For me, I prefer the soup, to be honest, in the sense that what I really like about the agile mindset, that you are encouraged to experiment. So you accept that you don't wait for ever and ever until you are really till you read all the books, but you take something that interests you and you see like where can I apply it a little bit. Yeah. What is it? Fail early, fail often kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is also the way to get into all of these different skills.
Yeah,
you're showing us the universe already. That's a lot of stuff.
I show you something very complicated because you said agile and simple and iterative. And now you see the L&D, our L&D universe. If you want, I will recommend you this resource. It's a study we selected from Red Thread Research. And why we selected this study, there are a lot of studies about L&D skills, relevant L&D skills, and also the current state, the history of them, and also the future, what we foresee for the future that is needed or relevant. And this one, it's more colorful and also is based on their research with a limited exposure, I don't know, 300 L&D professionals, but it was a nicely structured study, and also takes into consideration some L&D skills or capabilities models. Also this kind of categorization of skills in L&D. Of course, this is complicated. It's here just to give us a tool to discuss with people within the company to prove that we are intelligent. No? I'm joking, but yeah, it's complicated because it takes into consideration everything. And where you see a bubble that is bigger, it's because is more relevant in terms of people that responded to this. And also what is interesting in this study, if you want to approfundate to go in more detail afterwards, not now, but if you see the bubbles that are gray and the other ones that are colorful, it is because they consider two types of companies, which is quite interesting in this study. The high performance companies, and they define this according to some criteria, and also the regular companies. What the L&D professionals are saying and considering in terms of importance and prioritization about different skills in high performance companies that we are all admire and consider high performance companies, and also in regular companies in terms of performance, or I don't know, they have some criteria there. It's quite interesting. They put it here, they introduced, you see, there are a lot of categories, but there are some L&D traditional or core skills like instructional design, like training delivery, like we see here. They considered also this part with needs analysis or evaluation of impact or something, some metrics there, the way we analyze the data, because sometimes we don't like the data. Trainers are sometimes a little bit of an artist, you know. Antje, you said that famous saying, I am in HR because I don't like.
No, that's not, I mean, that was
no,
a
it
quote.
was a joke, I know.
No,
yeah, I
it
know,
was
I know.
I was quoting people who told me, you know, all this data stuff. I went into HR so that I didn't have to do maths. And now data science is everywhere.
Yeah, I really liked it. I know it was a quote, but you see, it's quite brilliant because it has two sides. Yeah, people are saying this or considering this, or at least the thought, some minimal thought in our brain about this. It's right, because yes, sometimes we don't have this kind of mindset of data science or something. Because I know back in the school, I didn't like mathematics very much. I was more like with literature, with dreaming, imagining, and also drawing stuff. But yeah, but we need also, these days, we need some understanding about how to process, or at least use tools that process, the data.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I think the data stuff is mostly just this idea that you use data to learn something. I mean, not necessarily that you have huge amounts of data, but that everything that you do, you figure out, okay, what can I learn from this experience, and which data can I collect to afterwards see, did it go as well as before or better, or what can I adapt afterwards? And that can be really basic. It doesn't have to be like the gigantic data mining exercise.
Yes, can be basic. And let's face it, until now, traditionally, it was very basic. How many people went into the course? It's not enough. It was something. It's better than zero, but yeah. But things like Antje said, what went well, and in terms of difference in results, if I don't know, you know, the Kirkpatrick model of different levels of impact of training and learning activities and development activities. But yeah, this is a model here. It's from one of the bodies of certification on L&D management training industry. If I don't know if you know them. It's just an example of competency models designed for L&D. The categories they define in terms of different skills, and foundational, and the other ones. And I think it's quite useful to, in order to understand our future, to think about a little skills and what do we have to train ourselves on, what will change. Like example, as Mina said, with the same chair, but it's totally different job, or 40% different job, like instructional design. How was 10 years ago and how it is now? The complexity in instructional design, the technical skills needed in order to do instructional design, depending, of course, of how you define the role in your L&D team. But it's much more complex and it's more technical. And if you are not, I don't know, if you don't like to learn technology and apps and stuff, so on and so forth, maybe you have a problem. Yeah, some skills are new, some skills are old, but they are changing. It depends. What we have here, it's our picks and your picks. In terms of, you see, there are different plateaux, different plates here with things. According with we discussed before, me and Antje, and also in the committee, according with everybody's experience and projects and exposure, of course, parts of the skills are relevant, parts are not, because you can't do it all. You can do anything, but not everything in the same time. No? It is this saying. And something like, I know, if you are familiar with marketing and communication skills for L&D, do you feel that it's useful? Let's see your picks on this. You see, it's just a list here, and also we have a poll. Okay, this one, lunch. Just to train our fingers by pressing some buttons and everything, and also discussing. Of course, it's not a complete list.
But it's a great list already.
Yes, and also because what you are doing now, it's this part with your picks, picking the fruits and everything. What is relevant to you? In my experience, because I work in a lot of industries, I have a professional ability as an external guy, and it depends also, it differs from one industry to another, because the complexity of L&D activity in manufacturing is different from the banking industry, of course. We can be proud of ourselves that we have a first Luxembourgish market research report here about the skills of the future in L&D. Let's see. The most popular is data analytics and learning impact evaluation. Oh my God.
Yay.
Gosh. Yeah, exactly. Yes. The most, the one that is not so friendly. Yes, it's the most popular, which is interesting. I'm just joking about, but yeah. And the second one, I think, is personal learning journeys design, together with coaching skills, you see. Yes, coaching skills, of course, we are speaking about coaching skills for L&D, the capacity of our L&D colleagues to help through coaching effort. Antje, do you want to?
Yeah, I was just curious what specifically people understood under coaching skills when they answered.
I'm curious too, because it's very, it's like consultancy. It's a very general term.
Is it consulting the sort of the organization's leaders about the next steps for upskilling the organization, or is it more coaching the individuals? And
for me, I interpreted it solely as how to address the person that you are coaching. So how to establish what their personality is, what their learning capability, or I can't remember what it's called, but the way that they learn, and adapting to them, and knowing that you can't design a program that fits everyone. Gamification will not work for someone who doesn't enjoy computer games. One-to-one mentoring will not work for somebody who's used to online polls, etc. So what I did not take it as is, I did not take it as going to the board and training the trainers on how to coach your subordinates. So that didn't even occur to me. It only occurred to me when you asked the question.
Okay. Yeah. We have also in chat Natalie. I will represent Natalie here. I'm a spokesman. She said fail forward, one, and the other input is consulting, teaching others how to coach. So there is, so that there is leaders as coaches culture. It's another perspective, another angle on this part with coaching skills here. Transferring this and forming this kind of capability in the management and leadership level of the organization further on, and create a culture of coaching.
I would have, I would have thought that would be sort of leadership development, but I can see how it could also be called coaching skills. Which is that's the problem, is that there's so much jargon in L&D that how did you mean it when you put the skills? Did you mean it to be train the trainer?
It depends. I don't think there is one way to express it in order to define to have a very precise definition of the meaning in L&D, because it's very complex. But yeah, when we put it here, it's about coaching skills for L&D. It's a more niched approach, but any angle, it's interesting. This is the main idea. Coaching skills for L&D in order for them to better perform in relationship with the internal client, because we are just an important one, but just a support function within the company. We support the business to develop the skills in order to run the processes that deliver the strategy, execute the strategy through people. Yeah, and because it's always about the people, in order to create this, yeah. But it can be from different angles, and this richness of perspective, this is the main idea of a community. Natalie said coaching is even more important in a culture where there is high innovation, because learning can happen at any moment, and we have to help others extract insights from moments.
And I think that fits really nicely with the other key point that was made on the personal learning journeys. And I mean, how can you personalize things? Maybe you can do it through peer coaching. And as Natalie wrote, I mean, there's learning needs to happen at any moment. And the way to do that is not if you wait for an expert to come along, then you can wait sometimes a long time. But if you enable people to coach each other, you have a possibility to also enable that at scale, hopefully.
Yeah, for this, it was a saying, like an axiomatic saying from lean thinking about training within every company, type of company. It's saying like this, like the need of any kind of organization for learning is much higher than its capacity to formally train its employees. Yeah. And if you think about it, exactly as you said, if they have to wait for formal training to happen and to somebody to give them something with the spoon, little spoon, you know, it's just too late. It's not like before. I know if many decades ago, maybe it was a valid thought, but now it's too late because we need more learning and a shorter time to competence also, and more agile, and yeah, of course.
Yeah, so my picks actually go directly in this direction. But
this is your greatest hits list, yeah.
So, but I just want to park the thought because we had the data analytics on number one, that before we finish this webinar, that we figure out if this is something that people are interested in to talk about more in detail at a later stage. Because it wasn't my initial pick, but I think if that's what most people are interested in, then we probably should also talk about it. So let me just take why did I pick social learning and learning journeys? I think just for that reason. I mean, and of course, I'm not saying technology isn't great, but I think people in fact learn most from other people and through social connection. So whatever we can do to help them connect and learn from each other, I mean, it should be fast because they are already there. It should be cheaper because you don't need to pay for an expert. And it also makes people happy to share their knowledge and give each other suggestions and so on. So I think L&D should really look at all the social learning formats and use them in their setups. And social learning could be just going for a coffee and exchanging thoughts. So it's as basic as that. But often I think people don't really dare to do that. But it could also be something really big, such as bar camps, where the participants set the agenda, but everybody is exchanging knowledge about what they are interested in. Or it could be sort of in between formats like lean coffee, which I personally really enjoy because it's the agenda is set by the participants. And you can discuss whatever is interesting for people who are in the meeting. Yeah, and learning journeys for me basically means personalizing in a way that is not that people start with their own objectives, they take the content they need, they use social connection, social learning to help themselves move forward. And they create impact through concrete projects or things that they do. So that for me is, given all these things that keep changing, the things that I would focus on. But I've talked now quite fast because our time is moving ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that anyway.
Yeah, I hope.
Great. Then social learning and learning journeys in this perspective. Do you want to say something? It was a voice.
There is a comment in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder, because we have limited time, and somehow what I was missing in this list, and maybe this is something what we can also just put out, is I think I felt as a learning professional in the moment where I didn't have a business mindset, that I was so much focused on my L&D hat, and I wasn't able to create like a very meaningful connection with my business, to be able to understand like what is the language, what is the rhythm of business and all that. So I think having that skill on the list is also like a must, so that a future or current learning professional is not only going with L&D skills, but actually is going like really with a strong business skills to be able to be a partner in the room and be able to understand actually the language that the business is using and the customer is using. So this is something that I would like really explore and unpack, because I think this is like when people do it, it is a huge enabler to allow you to move faster with adoption of your strategy or the mindset that you want to create or the skills that you want to develop, as well as it creates a seat in the table for L&D as an equal partner in the business. So it is not like L&D and the rest of the world, but it is like L&D is as a business as well. So this is something what I would love us to think about as well.
Yes, great idea, and thank you, Carolina. Great idea, and what I put it here in my picks also. The first one is actually I call it, but I niched it here. It's a little part of what I call business acumen for L&D professionals, in order to understand and to be able to talk business for being a proper partner for the internal client, for the business. I am keen to this perspective that you mentioned, because I always been hired in the last 20 years to do this. Any kind of stuff, even social learning, but in a systemic approach to an implementation. That's why I picked under the business acumen. If you don't have time for everything, I noticed in my activity, especially by training, learning, and introducing the role in different L&D teams of learning consultant, understanding processes and working with processes in order to understand your internal client activity, but deeply understand, not just to and to back up the training needs analysis with performance gaps understanding in terms of business and operations and stuff like this. Not to become an operations manager in terms of a level of expertise, but to understand a little more than we traditionally understood this in the past as L&D professionals. Also design thinking in order to fail fast, and to fail much earlier in the process, like in instructional design, or to design everything in order to rework. The level of rework in instructional design in companies is huge in terms of producing different, I don't know, for the classroom training environment or for e-learning, that doesn't matter. The level of rework, like going back in order to modify something or starting from scratch again because a stakeholder gave you a feedback. You should take this feedback much earlier in the process. That's why the approach of design thinking, if you are familiar with it, is to starting with the client in order to design anything. I know, even a report in Excel or something, or PowerPoint. And also the third one is befriending technology. For you as an L&D professional, which I think it's essential. I'm not a tech guy, but I think it's essential in order to scale. As I told you, I'm obsessed with scaling and with implementing something from a systemical approach. Even personalization, like now it's quite a hype. It started in retail. Back in the days, it's in the manual, Mina, with Amazon. The mass personalization, it's like a contradiction in terms, but mass personalization can be, yes. The idea of personalizing something, making it feel very personal, but in a systemic way, in order to approach more people and to be able to deliver to broader audiences. Yeah, that's why befriending technology is for us, not to be anxious with the technology, at least not to be anxious, and also for people within the company to help them learn by themselves technology. Because in terms of using an app or something, if you expect a trainer to come to train you in a classroom environment, it's too late. It's much too late. It's too little too late. You have to be able to learn by yourself by following tutorials and so on, and to trial and error and to discover what kind of functions are there and to make sense of an app. Like, I don't know, ChatGPT, no, but something else. What kind of help? And here comes the question that Antje already mentioned about. What would you like to explore more in our future events? And turns out that data analytics, you see, and learning impact evaluation, maybe to revisit this topic from a modern perspective in terms of our new challenges and new means, technological means at our disposal. Now it's much, much easier to understand data, because you don't have to understand anything just to know what to ask for. You see, with all this technology, you just have to address the question and, okay, some correlations or something, I don't know. But to revisit the idea of impact, and maybe we'll do something. Do you feel it relevant to do something on this part? I think it's perhaps also why data analytics scored high, exactly. And also I love the best practice sharing, how some of complex current problems are addressed the others, or by the others. Nice. Okay, and you have to live using generative AI tech for L&D. It will be also, Nina said, yeah, it will be a topic. In order to address these challenges, the traditional challenges, not about just technology. I'm very keen to technology, not for the sake of technology, but to help us in the operational methodological challenges. Okay, and maybe the one with personal learning journey designs and everything. We'll come back to you with a resume, with a summary of our discussion today, and help Antje, if you want to say something in the end.
I see so many ideas for potential events in the chat. Yes, let's meet each other again soon, and maybe we can chat in the LinkedIn group as well on
yes.
on making the ideas a bit more practical. What
yes.
you are interested in and what we should focus on next.
And just to give you just a personal touch on this, the main idea behind this event with Antje, it was started in our L&D forum, LinkedIn L&D forum of RTD Com, because Antje, she was quite present there and quite active and proactive, you see. And we said, okay, let's do an event together. It started like this, and if you are also interested to come up with something to present to us, or I don't know, it will be wonderful too.
So what
Thank
I'm trying to do is
yeah,
I'm sharing the group in the chat. If people are not yet in there, then I think that would be a good idea to continue the discussion there.
Yes, and we also have the emails. Thank you very much for your presence. Yeah, have a good lunch, or I don't know, depends on your program. See you on our LinkedIn forum and in other events. Thank you.
Thank you all.